Well, it's a very warm welcome to Open Lines at 9 once more. And as I said, my esteemed guest in the studio, Mufti Menk, and I'm sure like me you are enthralled by Mufti's discussion on interfaith relations. Mufti?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, most beneficent, most merciful. Once again, let's continue with what we were saying. And I have explained today that Islam is a very, very broad religion which caters for one and all. And the Islamic concept is based on mutual respect. You respect me, I respect you. In fact, Islam goes a step further and says if someone disrespects you, it does not mean you should disrespect them, but you should deal with the problem. So if someone, for example, let's take a look at the cartoons that were, the cartoons that were published in Denmark, and we know about what happened. We all know that, yes, it was something very bad. And sometimes I know recently I was asked by a group of Christians that, you always preach tolerance, and why didn't you tolerate the cartoons, And I said, look, the cartoons do not serve any purpose besides blaspheming and angering. That's all. Because they do not depict anybody's belief. If someone says Jesus is the Son of God and someone else says he is not the Son of God, it is their belief. So they can't afford to get angry with one another. But if someone just starts swearing and starts mocking and making a fool of someone else, then I think that is a loophole in modern day constitution and the modern day interpretation of the word freedom of expression. It's a very big loophole, because as civilized as we are, we still don't realize that we have interpreted the word freedom of expression wrongly, so that it actually caters for people to incite violence. And we are satisfied with that. So, though it was totally wrong, we as Muslims also have to admit that the hooliganism that followed in some parts of the world was also totally wrong. Yes, we had the right to, in a civilized manner, express our views, like what happened in Cape Town. I was actually following it, and we were proud of the demonstrations and what had happened, because they were all within the limits to express that, look, we are hurt, and this is something unacceptable, and we do not want it to repeat itself. But at the same time, for those who began to bomb and fire, smoke up places and burn things and kill innocent people and so on, that is totally unacceptable. That hooliganism is probably worse than the cartoons. And at times people can use these things to make a fool of Islam and the Muslims. If you studied the world media, what it did is it shifted concentration from the core and the crux to an aftermath and to the reaction. And it basically the outcome of the entire cartoon episode, according to the Western prevalent media, was the hooliganism of the Muslims. They didn't even discuss the issue of whether the cartoons were, barbaric and unacceptable and blasphemous or not. At a later stage, they didn't discuss that. They only harped on something. So we need to make sure that we have a balanced approach. I'm not saying sit back, relax, and let people trample all over. No. But I am saying when someone disrespects, we should react in such a way that we do not show them that we are disrespectful as well. We need to be civilized. We are Muslims. Look at the Prophet, may peace be upon him. There was a lady, every day when he passed a certain alley, she would throw dirt and literally the dung of cows and at times even human, stool and that on him as he passed. And he was in the early stages in Makkah, and he did not retaliate because he realized that, no, man, I've got to show this woman goodness. And imagine how irritating it is. Today, if someone spits, not on us, but in our path, we'd probably take a gun and shoot the guy. It shows how much intolerant we are today. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, what had happened then is one day this thing didn't come. I mean, he would clean his clothes and wash them later on, and he passed the same alley every single day. I know there's a narration which says that a Muslim must not be bitten from the same hole twice. But for whatever reason, he decided to pass. He had divine revelation. He passed, and one day it didn't come, so he knocked on the door, and he heard a voice saying, "You may come in." And as he went in, this woman was shocked. "What do you want?" She says, "No, my dear mother, you have been giving me a gift every day." Now look at these words. These are heavenly words. I know we cannot compete, and I'm not telling you this so that you can compete, but just to open our eyes, to show you how tolerant he was of others who blasphemed him in person. They didn't just draw a cartoon, but they in person, which is much more serious. He did not resort to hooliganism, but he said, "Look, every day you give me a gift, and today it didn't come, so I felt your health might not be well. You might be sick. So I thought, let me just visit you and wish you well." Now, this is a non-Muslim. We're going to a non-Muslim to wish her well, an elderly lady. How many of us would ever think of our Christian neighbors and go to them and say, "Look, you're not well, and we wish you well, and get well soon"? Those statements are Islamic statements. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a sunnah. It's a part and parcel of following the footsteps of the Prophet. So when he went in, she was shocked. She was dumbfounded. And she says, "You are a prophet of God." That's it. She declared it straight away. And at that moment, it was such a touching time. She turned and she says, "I really apologize for what I've done all these days. I didn't know that this is what Islam was all about." Which means today, a lot of the non-Muslims fall in the same bracket. They don't know what is Islam. They're hearing all the negative pictures. And you know something, if you study news, what is news? When we were children, we were told that all the bad in the globe is news. And I know that's a wrong definition, but for little children, it's right. How many good things are mentioned in the news? Very few. Most of it is bad. So many people died there. There was a bus crash. There was an accident. There was this. There was that. So many people had miscarriages. So many people have AIDS. So many people are sick. So many people have cancer. All the bad things in the world are mentioned. So whenever the bad things of Islam make headlines, you should know that that is what the news is all about. It's bad.
My guest in studio with me, the highly respected Mufti Menk. Back to the markets, and after that we'll continue and also wrap up the program.